I'm not on. Good evening. We're going to start in about 3 minutes if you'd like to find your seats. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to start in a couple of minutes. Aren't they great, guys? So if you could all find your seats, that would be very helpful. The 119th Annual Convention of the New York State PTA will come to order. I ask that you please stand as Cambria Boy Scout Troop 8, chartered by the Cambria Volunteer Fire Department, presents the colors. Please remain standing as Milena Din, representing the Westchester East Putnam region, leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and Tiffany Melendez, a senior from Grand Island High School, will sing our national anthem.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberties and justice for all.
Please be seated. Okay, this is the aerobics section of the evening. If you could please stand, thank you so much. Tiffany?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming? whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous flights o'er the ramparts we watched was so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
You may post the colors. Okay. You may be seated. Thank you, Milena. Hold on a second. I think we're all set. Have the colors been posted? Okay. If I could have Scoutmaster Todd Fisher come up. Okay. Joe Boschnagel. Thank you, sir. I got that right. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, every one of you. Thank you. Wasn't that great? We'd also like to thank Tiffany. Great job. Next, for our entertainment tonight is the Kenmore East Hill High School Jazz Ensemble, which you had an opportunity to get a little preview of as you came in. One more? What do you think, guys?
On drum set, we got Zach Mathis. On guitar, we got Jake Druid. On bass, Jake Cummins. On tenor sax, Matthew White.
Thank you, Kenmore East High School Jazz Ensemble. Weren't they great? Will Director Phil Lagoya please come forward to accept a certificate? Oh, here it comes. Students like these gifted jazz musicians and singer Tiffany Melendez are the reason we are involved in PTA. They are why we continue to support the arts, an integral part of a well-rounded education for all children and youth. We are truly fortunate to have them and other talented students who will entertain us over the weekend. On behalf of the state governance team, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the 119th Annual Convention of the New York State PTA. And now I would like to invite Cindy Ames, Niagara Region Director, to offer an inspirational moment.
I don't really want to follow them. Make the Ordinary Come Alive by William Martin. Do not ask your children to strive for extraordinary lives. Such striving may seem admirable, but it is a way of foolishness. Help them instead to find the wonder and the marvel of an ordinary life. Show them the joy of tasting tomatoes, peaches, and pears. Show them how to cry when pets and people die. Show them the infinite pleasure in the touch of a hand, and make the ordinary come alive for them. The extraordinary will take care of itself.
Meaningful words that remind us that children help us to see the marvel of life every single day. So I thank you, Cindy, for reminding us that as we teach them, they teach us. It is our distinct privilege to have with us this evening MaryEllen Elia, New York State Commissioner of Education. I encourage you to read her bio found on page 5 of the program book. MaryEllen Elia is a New York State Commissioner of Education and President of the University of the State of New York. In this role, she oversees the work of more than 700 school districts with 3.2 million students, 7,000 libraries, 900 museums, and 52 professions encompassing more than 850,000 licensees. A native New Yorker, Ms. Elia has 45 years of experience as an educator. She was born, raised, and attended schools right here in Western New York. After graduating from high school in Lewiston, New York, she earned her Bachelor's of Arts degree in history from Damon College in Amherst, a Master of Education from the University of Buffalo, and a Master of Professional Studies from SUNY Buffalo. In 1970, she began her career in education as a social studies teacher in Buffalo's Sweet Home Central School District and taught for 19 years before moving on to administrative positions. Prior to her appointment as commissioner here in New York, she served as superintendent of schools in Hillsborough County, Florida for 10 years. It is a great honor that we welcome her tonight, New York State Commissioner of Education and President of the University of State of New York, MaryEllen Elia.
Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. I have to tell you, it was a flashback when I walked in and I saw student art from the Reflections program that you have. I was very involved in the PTA. Nathan and I were just talking about that. Hillsborough County had one of the largest PTAs in the country, and our reflection program was held at our largest high school. It was a Sunday afternoon, I think usually a little later than this, but it was always great to have students there that were getting their awards. And a flashback again when I heard students performing like that. That's my first time since I was a New York State Commissioner that happened. So thank you very much for providing that. So I was asked to talk about kind of where we are in New York. Some of you may know I've been traveling over 15,000 miles in a few short months since July 6th, when I actually took the position, to meet with people across the state, and parents were certainly a part of that group. Each of the areas that I've traveled to, I've had separate meetings, some with teachers, some with teacher union members, some with superintendents and principals, and school board members and parents. And it's been an eye-opener. I think there are 3 things that I'd like to mention that are on my page. And as I pointed out, it's a relatively new page, not filled yet, but getting there, believe me. First of all, and I want to say some of the things that we are doing to address these issues. One of the things I heard when I first came here was, we don't like Common Core. Maybe some of you would say that to me. I don't know. And I said, what exactly don't you like about Common Core? And most people never read what those standards were. Most of them didn't understand that the Common Core is not the test. It is not over-testing in the schools. It is not an evaluation system. It's a set of standards that was adopted in New York, like many other states. And so one of the things that I've been very anxious, and I want to give you a little bit of an update on where we are. I hope all of you have had the opportunity to go online to what some people would say is a cumbersome survey. But there are 2,000 standards. So I want you to think of how I thought about how do we put together the survey. So there was an option, right? I could have said, let's not have all of those standards on there. Now, if you were me and you think about it, what would be one of the first things someone would say? See, she's fixing that survey. She doesn't want us to see all the standards. And I didn't want that to happen. And so there are over 2,000 standards. There are places for you to give feedback. And if there's particular areas of the standards that you don't like because of experiences you've had, and you've talked to teachers, and you've talked to your kids, and you've worked on things, I would suggest you target those. But please go on and give your feedback, because we are anxious to have people who are interacting in various ways with higher standards in New York give us feedback. And we right now have probably about 7,000 to 10,000, somewhere in that range, people who've gone on and given us feedback. But I will say to you, the survey is an important thing because it has been misaligned and misunderstood. And I think we need to get to the basic question: do you want high standards for your students in your schools? And if you want the high standards but you don't like some of the things, then go on and tell us what you don't like. And if you like high standards and you like them all and you think it's a good goal of ours, you can put that in too. But please be part of the discussion so we can move forward. So I guess maybe after 45 years as an educator and 17 years in a classroom here and 2 years in a classroom in Florida, I can say to you that, like you, I want to move forward. I want to do the things that need to be done, and we need to move. And to do that, I think we need to have feedback. So let me tell you one of the second things that I've heard a lot about. And that is assessment. So I would suggest that some of you probably have a view about the assessments that are given in New York. Is that right? Yeah. So I'm kind of anticipating some of the comments and questions, right? Since I've heard them. And so let me talk a little bit about the assessments. What I heard was that teachers really didn't feel like they were part of the development of the assessment. And, you heard my bio that Bonnie read. I am from New York State. I went to high school here. And everybody who's got a Regents diploma, please raise your hand. Okay? Now, I also, as a teacher, worked on Regents exams. I always thought they were kind of tough, but I always liked them because I thought, my colleagues and I wrote this exam. This is what we're really going to get our kids to be able to do. So when I came to New York and I heard from teachers we weren't part of the exams, I went and I asked in the Department of Education, is that true? And they said, no, we did have committees. And then I talked to some of the teachers who were on the committees, and really they didn't feel like they had, sometimes you can be at a meeting, but you don't feel like you really have involvement, right? And so luckily we were in a position where we were selecting a new testing company. And so I took that opportunity and we put in a new testing company. I'll bet all of you know the name of the old testing company, don't you? Because it's a bad word. So we got rid of the company whose name starts with a P. And we put in a new assessment company. It's smaller. It actually had its beginnings here in New York State. It moved out to Milwaukee or somewhere in the Midwest, but it's called Questar. And from the very beginning, the contract was written so that teachers were involved in every stage of that assessment. So we've already started that. So that now, next April, when our students take the assessment, we couldn't flip on a dime to a brand new test. And so our teachers have been involved in reviewing all of the items that are going on the assessment, and they are going to be selecting the readings that are part of that. And they're doing that for both language arts and mathematics at every grade 3 through 8, and we are shortening every one of those assessments in grades 3 through 8, language arts and mathematics. Now, I'm going to tell you something that when it happens and you hear somebody, I want you to know that you heard it from me. Everyone is not going to think they're short enough. Okay? But one of the things that you need to do when you have a standardized assessment is there are psychometric rules, and we're going to follow the rules, but we're shortening the assessments. So I can assure you that as we get into the next set of assessments, we're even more focused on making them exactly what our teachers think should be on there to test and make sure that our students are reaching standards, but the teachers will be totally involved in the whole scenario as we go forward. Now, there's one other thing about assessment I want to mention, and Bonnie, keep me on time. I want to have time for questions. One of the things about the assessments, and some of you may have heard about computer-based testing. Did anybody here hear anything about that? Okay, all right. And so computer-based assessments will give us opportunities to solve some of the problems that teachers and parents and administrators have told me about. One of them is that the assessment, you don't get the data back very fast. Is that true? Yes. It's one of the problems that people have said, you give an assessment, but we don't know anything about it for 3 months, and it's past times, et cetera. And so when we ultimately get to the point in the state, and it's going to be a while, where we can have computer-based assessment, it allows the data to come back to us very quickly. A second thing about the potential of computer-based assessment is that you can do assessment questions that then can reflect off the student being tested, and so it can shift levels. And particularly for our exceptional students, we think that that will be a very powerful thing. So we're very interested in being able to do that. And third, and a number of people and teachers and parents have said to me they really would like some other types of questions, and we've got a lot of really smart teachers in the state who I think would like to go to some performance-based assessment or project-based assessments, and doing it in technology can just help us to be able to make that work better. But I have been involved in school districts for a very long time, and one of the worst things you can do is put in something new and have it be a major problem. because you can never come back from it, right? And any of you who've read, and I'm sure Nathan knows a little bit about some places in the country that have had disasters when it came to technology, we're not going to do that in New York. Again, I think it may be the 45 years of experience, but we don't need disasters. And what we're going to do is roll it out slowly. We asked this year for schools that felt that they would like to test with computer-based testing, and they're doing some sample questions, so it's not the operational assessment, but they want to try it. 844 of our schools, more than 50% of our school districts are represented in that number, and they're going to be trying computer-based assessments for one group of students. So we're going to go slow. We're going to make sure that as the bond money that was approved for New York for technology and for infrastructure is rolled out to the schools, that as they get ready, we will move towards more assessment. But we're not going to do it fast, and we're not going to do it until we're pretty sure everybody can make this work. It will bring some benefits to us, but it's, as I said, balanced on the fact that you don't want to do something that isn't successful. So the third thing that I have heard has been an issue is the evaluation of teachers. Am I right? So I guess all of these miles were worth it, right? So there's no question that we have kind of a boondoggle when you're talking about the assessments of our teachers. And you certainly, when 20% of the students don't take the test, and when the parents, for the most part, I talked to parents and said, if you opted out, why did you opt out? They didn't like Common Core, but a lot of them really didn't think of Common Core as a standard and what we were trying to reach. For the most part, I believe that they opted out because of that connection of student performance on that assessment with teacher evaluation. Am I right? Okay. So let me just lay this out for you. I do believe that there should be accountability with teachers. I don't know. I don't have a silver ball here and can't say I know the best way to do it, but I know ways that you can do it. And I worked in my district in Florida collaboratively with our union and put in an evaluation structure that we were very successful with. In fact, the year that I left, it was tied to the performance of teachers, but it also gave them the opportunity to get substantial raises. And so we did it in collaboration with our union. I believe that, like anybody in a job, you are accountable for the work that you do. And you have children who are in front of our teachers, working with our teachers all year long. I think we can figure out a way with teachers that is a reasonable way to include some portion of it. Believe me, I believe 50% is too high. But I do think we can work that through, and I think we all want the best for our kids. And so that is one of the things on my agenda. I can't tell you where these changes are going to lead us, but I can tell you that I'm committed to make sure that we work with teachers to affect a change in the way that we evaluate. Evaluation should be something that is an opportunity for people to know that they're doing really good work, or perhaps they have some things they could do better. But I always used to tell my teachers, there's no reason to think that we want to get rid of you. I'm not saying that for what they think in New York. I'm saying that for what I had in Hillsborough. And the reason I say that is our whole program was based on giving feedback so teachers could get better. And I think all of us know that we want our teachers to have all the support they need to be successful. And that's one of the reasons that one of the major focus that I'm going to have in our request from the governor's office is to make sure that we have supports for our teachers. I'm going to end it now so we can go to your questions, but I really, I want to say to you, I'm very pleased that I was invited to come and speak to you. I am dedicated to really focusing on having parents have a voice. We have a number of programs where I think it's a really critical thing. We have a number of schools that are in trouble, and they need to have everybody working to support them. And we have a lot of school districts and schools that will just function better because you're a voice at the table. So it is my agenda to make sure that parents are very much included in what we do in New York State. So thank you.
The commissioner has about 10 minutes because then she does have another place to be at. However, she wants to make sure that she gets to some questions for you. When you came in, there were index cards that either were given to you or they're in your booklets.
That lady's got a card right over there.
There you go. You have a ticket. Okay. Our advocacy team members will be taking these to the mics, so the floor people can also help collect them. If we could pass those down for a moment, and if the advocacy team members that are going to go to the mic could please get up, and let's see if we can do this in the next few moments.
Great.
Okay?
If you ask the question while you're picking them up, then I can start.
If I could have some of the advocacy team members at the mic, please. Okay. Anne?
Why is there a huge push for universal pre-K when kindergarten is not mandated by the state?
Well, let me say this. I'm sure some of you have read some of the research about early childhood education. And when you look at the kinds of opportunities, and let me say I am committed to a preschool program or early childhood program that really is not about an academic environment as much as it is a social environment and exposure to greater vocabulary, exposure to early reading, and exposure to the kinds of things that help students to interact with each other in an appropriate way. So if you have a child and they enter school and haven't had exposure to large numbers of vocabulary, by just having people talk to them and having them think through things and ask questions and get responses, and many of our homes now don't have that. You know, we have families where two parents are working and children are sometimes put in really high quality daycare settings and sometimes not. And so offering pre-K is a way to try to hold up and make sure that every child enters kindergarten and first grade ready to move forward and not have disparities when they enter their first grade. So that's really the reason.
Thank you. Kathy?
I'm going to combine two questions.
Okay?
One is, how will the survey data be compiled and acted upon? And the second question is related. How come the survey is only feedback on the standards themselves and not the issues that come part and parcel with Common Core?
Okay. So how will they be acted on? Let me do that question first. So what we're doing is collecting, and if you've been on, you know that every single standard has the ability, people can give feedback on that standard, or at the very beginning you can give feedback on the entire group of standards. So there's different ways that we can do it. We are doing an analysis. We hired a firm that did this in 3 other states. They're going to do an analysis for us of the responses that came in. And in those responses, if we see everybody says about certain groups of standards or certain grade levels of standards, we agree with these. We're going to move forward and not do anything with those. If we find out, and these are some of the ones that I've heard from teachers and parents, that some of the standards, particularly for K-1-2, are developmentally perhaps not appropriate, okay? If we hear that on the survey, we're going to put a team of experts, including teachers and parents and people who have written books and done studies of children those ages, and have them come together and make recommendations on those standards, review them, and have teachers who are teaching students that are that grade level on the committees. Then, ultimately, wherever we find that there's places that we need to make some shifts, based on the feedback that we got, then that will ultimately come back into our regions for a change in what they've adopted. So they've already adopted the standards. We have to go back and make a change. But it'll be based on the studies that come out of the feedback that we receive. And the reason that all of the issues weren't put in a survey was because the survey's purpose and the legislature actually passed a law indicating that the regents and the Department of Education should do a survey or some way to get feedback across the state and do it by June. It really had to do with the standards, not all of those other things that people think are part of Common Core, but they really are not. Okay?
Thank you. Ann? Joyce?
Am I on? All right, this question is in regard to the current diploma situation for special education students.
Okay.
And they would like to know what is being done to correct the inequities which exist in the testing of our children with special needs, and also in addition to the current options for kids outside of Regents diplomas that will allow our students to gain employment in a job, civil service, et cetera.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that question. So let me say this. Before I came to New York, John King, the previous commissioner, had requested a waiver off of the assessment requirements for special education in New York. And he requested it from the Department of Education, and he didn't receive it. Since I've come, we have had another request go in, and we've had multiple calls with the Department of Education. I think we are getting to the point where, and some of you may have heard, we talked at the table a little bit, that it looks like there may be a reauthorization of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act in Congress. I think, number one, I think that will be a very good thing, because I think what's going to happen is that some of the requirements that we have right now, that every child be tested, including our ELL populations and our special ed children, that they be tested on the same assessment. I think that is going to be out of the law. So that's a positive thing. And let me say this, one of the things that would become extremely helpful is to be able to do adaptive assessment. That's when I mentioned to you that if a student starts an assessment and they aren't getting any of them right because it's just way ahead of them, then it automatically drops them down into lower level questions on the same standard. We're very interested in that. We have suggested to USDOE that we pilot it and that we look at how we can do that. So that's the first part of your question. The second part has to do with the diplomas. And I had a conversation with one of the members up here, and we talked about on Monday there will be a presentation to our regions on special education, where we are in the state and what we're seeing in terms of the approach that various school districts are taking in determining how they're supporting their special education students. But we're also looking at any other options that have been used in places to provide opportunities for diplomas. So I can't guarantee something's going to happen this meeting, but I would suggest that within the next 2 meetings, after November, December, or January, we will be bringing something to the regions for a new diploma option that I believe will be very helpful. I don't want to, on the other hand, though, let the CDOS program go, because I think that is an option for us, but we did not do a good job in New York on making sure that employers and others knew that it could, in fact, and did, have standards with it, and that if a student meets those standards, that in fact that is a diploma. So I think it's important for us to keep that one going, but give more options, and that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you. One last question. Kathy?
How can you help us understand how we can stop the attacks on public education?
So let me say, I have been very vocal in national settings that teachers and public education have been the whipping dogs. And it's absolutely absurd. If I said to some of you, to any of you, and I talked to anybody else across this country who thinks that teachers shouldn't be revered for the work they do, most people would say, if I asked you what was the most important or who was the most important person in your life, if it's not a mother or a father, an aunt, an uncle, or a grandparent, it's a teacher. So let me finish this one first, okay? You're so anxious over there. So I think we have to have a concerted effort. I think we have to get to the media. I think that all of you have a pen. And there is much power in the pen. You can constantly, as PTA members, in your own communities, be sending in letters to the editor. You can be putting your school districts in positions of saying how great teachers are, calling attention to the great things that are being done, and take over the airways to drown out what has been a negative approach, and figure out ways that you, as individuals who care about kids in schools, how you can tell that story. And you're much more legitimate in telling it than I am. Thank you. Okay. Can I let this lady have,
I hope this is hers.
I don't know if it is. Do you mind
Okay.
if we have, Bonnie, can we have one person stand up over there? Remember, she had her hand up first. Come on over. Come over to the mic and let's ask your question, please.
We could, yeah. Are you guys good with that? Let her.
You know, one thing I've learned as a teacher is you can't always stick to the rules. Okay, quick.
Sorry. On Monday, actually, the Oceanside School District is having our annual advocacy meeting, and one of our focuses is actually to get educators together to review the Common Core standards so that we can better educate parents to respond to your survey.
Thank you.
Let me just say, because I'm an educator, but I'm a parent right now, I'm actually not teaching right now, other than, never mind. But the point is that we don't want people to go on the website and rant and rave and say Common Core stinks and Common Core is too hard. We really want to educate people. So I'm asking you, because I haven't had as great a response as I would really like, because I've put it on my Facebook page I'm actually a president of a pre-K through K grade level school, but I'm a parent of also an elementary level school, and I'm an elementary level teacher. So I want to know, where should we focus? How do we take these educators and parents and take them to your survey and educate them the best on how to equip you with what you need to know? I know you're talking about certain standards.
So here's what I've done.
Okay.
I have communicated with every teacher in the state of New York directly. I've asked all of them to go online, and I've asked them, if they can't spend a lot of time, to go to the standards that relate to what they teach. Okay? I also have asked every principal to please take the time in a faculty meeting and allow your teachers to go to the computers and to put those comments in. I've also asked the principals to please allow teams of teachers to talk over what they think should be on there, but I've told them make sure they individually put in their responses. I've also asked superintendents and school board members to support this effort and to tell the principals and to remind the teachers to go online. I've communicated with school board members, superintendents, all administrators, PTA, and I know it's gone out to all of you, and everybody that I can in the state, and I've been on several media shows talking about the importance of having this feedback. So I think if you're not getting a big response, it may be because teachers have done it, and as I said, we have a lot of
Parents are nervous. They get overwhelmed, and they don't respond to this kind of feedback because they don't feel as though they're educated enough, is what I feel.
Well,
and they're intimidated.
So this is a group of parents here, and I would suggest to you that that using your organizations in each community associated with each school district would be very powerful to do that. And I appreciate all of the help that you've given us to get that feedback on that survey. So thank you very much for the invitation. I appreciated it.
Please help me thank Commissioner Elia.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I go away carrying gifts.
Thank you so much. Okay. Our parliamentarian for the general sessions, Carol Shalansky, is seated to my right. Carol will present us with a parliamentary briefing later in our agenda. New York State PTA Secretary Judy Van Haren will now issue the call to convention.
Delegates from units, councils, and regions are invited to attend the 119th convention of the New York State Congress of Parents and Teachers Incorporated, November 13th through 17th, 2015, at the Niagara Falls Conference and Event Center in Niagara Falls, New York.
Thank you. The auditors for this convention are members of the New York State Board of Directors. They are Lori May and David Steggles. In addition, in the back, we have Nori Gartner-Baca, publication specialist, who will assist us supporting our tech company, CMI, and thanks to all of you. New York State PTA is honored to have with us this weekend Executive Director of the National PTA, Nathan Monell. He brings greetings from National PTA, and please help welcome Nathan.
Thank you for that kind introduction. I'm very happy to be here with you. I'm also very pleased for the leadership that you are hearing tonight from your commissioner. I know many states would like to see that same kind of leadership. It's good to be in Niagara Falls again. I think the last time I was here was 50 years ago. My grandfather came here to Roswell for leukemia treatment, and I saw the falls for the first time. And it's good to be back in New York State. Lily Tomlin said, "I always wanted to be somebody when I grew up. I should have been more specific." When I was growing up in New York State, I never expected to be coming back to the state as the executive director of the National PTA. For those of you who don't know, this is my home state. I was born in Endicott, New York. I lived in Owego for a year. You can raise your hands wherever you are, thank you. And then my father was a minister, so we traveled some, so I was in Dundee, New York for 3 years. Anybody from Dundee? Yes, hooray. And then we lived in northeastern Pennsylvania. We won't talk about them for a while. And then I lived in the Shenango Forks area for my high school years. So anybody from the Binghamton area? All right, great to have you. When I moved away from New York State in 1975, I've been back often to visit my family and my relatives who are here, but I'm really proud to come back tonight in my role as Executive Director for the PTA because I'm so proud of what you're doing as a state. New York is really a rock star state. I hope you know that. And I know many times we get in the weeds working with each other and struggling and trying to make things happen, we forget how really wonderful we are. And I just want to reflect back to you that the opinion that the National PTA has of New York. First of all, you bring some really terrific leaders to us, and you've done that over our 100-plus year history. We're particularly pleased with the leadership that we have now, and Susan Littman, who is on our board of directors. There she is. And is serving now as the chair of the Board Policy Task Force, and a very important job for us. I'm sure she learned many of the things she'll be helping us with, helping you all do your work here. And also to have Vito Borello, who is on the National Leadership Development Council, helping us to identify upcoming and emerging leaders and helping us to groom people for the future of the National PTA. And I also want to call out Lana Ajamian for her work as a federal legislative chair. I know she's doing a terrific job. Oh, they like you over there. Those are my colors. For her great work that she's doing to keep you apprised of what's going on, including the latest news about ESEA, which looks like it will be moving forward in the next couple of weeks. But when I observed your board this morning, I saw Bonnie's great leadership, and I saw the board's due diligence as they undertake some very serious issues. It reflected what I've been told about New York State. National sees you as a very high-functioning state, that you're well-run and effective, that you're always growing and stretching, that you're never content with the status quo, you're always looking at what's coming next. And in spite of the challenges you face, you're united in securing the best advantage for your children, and that's what we're all about. So I want to say thank you for having me here. I want to thank the sponsors for your conference, Life Touch, which are also partners with National PTA. And on behalf of the National Board of Directors and our 56 staff members, we wish you a great convention. And I know that we have a video greeting from our president, Laura Bay.
Welcome to your state convention. Thank you for being here. We could not give every child a voice without you. Your commitment to today's PTA is one that is unmatched. Our members are the driving force of our association. Your continuous support, selfless leadership, and undeniable passion are building the foundation for a bright, successful tomorrow for all our children. You are part of a worldwide network of families united with one goal in mind: to improve the education, health, safety, and well-being of all children. At National PTA, we provide parents, grandparents, and other caring adults just like you with the resources and tools to effectively influence the decisions that affect children, not only at your schools, but also throughout your districts, within your state, and across the country. The summer is here. As your new president, I am excited about the months and years ahead for our association. The voice of PTA is a necessity now more than ever as schools across the country deal with tightening budgets that often cut crucial resources and basic materials. As the national voice for parents, PTA is dedicated to speaking up for what is best for our children. You will learn more about our programs and advocacy efforts during your state convention. Please take advantage of being together with individuals who share your same passion. Celebrate your achievements, learn from one another, and recommit to the mission of today's PTA. If we all roll up our sleeves and speak with one voice, we can, and we will, continue to improve public education in meaningful ways for decades to come. Thank you for your dedication every day on behalf of America's children. You make all the difference.
Thank you, Nathan, and please thank Laura. That was a wonderful message. Nathan will be with us until Sunday morning, so please be sure to come up to him, introduce yourself, and share news of what's happening or something special about your PTA back home. I know you would love to hear from them. Great. So now what we'd like to do is introduce our volunteers on the state board. This is the part of the program where you have the opportunity to meet your state volunteers who give so much of themselves so that our association can be the premier family engagement and advocacy association for all New York's children. Once again, it is a pleasure to introduce PTA National Board Executive Director Nathan Monell. As I mentioned, you will see him throughout the weekend, but I also do want to mention if you're coming to the Presidents to Presidents luncheon, he will be there and he'll be talking with us as well. He is also going to be giving a workshop, Building for Success, Exploring Leadership Styles. Our convention provides an opportunity for members to become better acquainted with the State Board of Directors, which is comprised of New York's national board members, state officers, and coordinators. They are listed on page 35 of your program. So from both our national team and our home team, the New York State PTA Board of Directors, I would like to introduce Susan Littman. Susan serves as a member of the Board of Directors of National PTA and is past president of New York State PTA. During this convention, she will also be a go-to person at our parliamentary assistance table, which will be in the back when she's done with introductions. She will go back. Vito Borello. Vito serves on the National PTA Nominating and Leadership Development Committee. As president, it is my privilege to introduce your New York State PTA Executive Committee. The Executive Committee is comprised of 8 extremely hard-working and dedicated volunteers. They each have taken on additional responsibilities of leadership. I am honored to work with them and pleased to introduce them to you tonight. Will the Executive Committee please stand as I call your name and remain standing? The chair asks that you hold your applause until all members have been introduced. Grace Marie Rosé. She serves as our first vice president. She is the designated officer for the field support coordinators. Okay. I was like, what's that noise? I thought it was water. The region directors and the urban specialists. Grace Marie also serves as chair of the staffing committee and is co-coordinator of the 2015 orientation. She also coordinated our region focus groups this past year. Penny Hollister serves as vice president and is the designated officer for the programs coordinator and for the specialists for arts, reflections, literacy, pick a reading partner, bylaws, and rural schools. Penny also served as co-coordinator of the 2015 orientation. Kelly Stevenson serves as Vice President of Leadership Development. She is also the chair of the 2015 Strategic Planning Committee, is the 2015 Convention Workshop Coordinator, and has served as the chair of our Technology and Communication Systems Special Committee. Jane Harsha serves as Vice President and is the designated officer for the advocacy team, which includes the education, family engagement, legislation, resolutions, and wellness coordinators. Specialists are health, juvenile protection, environment, and special education. Jane also served as the 2015 Legislation Education Conference coordinator. Donna Moberstag serves as vice president and designated officer for team membership. This includes a membership coordinator, outreach coordinator, and the diversity, male engagement, and marketing specialists. Judy Van Heeren serves as secretary. Sorry, I have to laugh. Judy is the designated officer for communications with the data and publication specialist reporting to her. As secretary, she also chairs the Convention Rules Committee. Neil Johanning serves as treasurer. He is the chair of the Budget and Finance Committee and designated officer for the merchandise specialist and the financial support specialist. Please join me in thanking the members of our executive committee for their amazing service and dedication. Please be seated. It is my pleasure as chair to introduce Lana Ajayman, immediate past president. I paused for that this time. I saw that one coming. Immediate past president of the New York State PTA, Lana also serves as our federal legislation chair and is a member of the National PTA Legislation Committee. She currently serves as president of our statewide unit, Empire State PTSA, and during this convention, she chairs the Elections Committee. To introduce the coordinators is Vice President Penny Hollister. The chair requests that the coordinators stand and face the delegates as they are introduced and remain standing.
Field Support Coordinator Lori Becker. Field Support Coordinator Julie Griffith. Field Support Coordinator Monica Meddy. Field Support Coordinator David Steggles. Field Support Coordinator Jackie Wilson. Jackie also serves as this convention's coordinator. Field Support Coordinator Lori Zaman. Bylaws Coordinator George Kimball. Education Coordinator Kathy Romano. Family Engagement Coordinator Kim Blasiak. Leadership Development Coordinator Kelly Stevenson. Legislation Coordinator Suzanne Smuller. Membership Coordinator Sean Hannon. Outreach Coordinator Lori May. Programs Coordinator Joan Wobnick. Resolutions Coordinator Dana Playton. Wellness Coordinator Lucille Vitale. Youth Member Shannon Stevenson. Please help me in thanking your state coordinators.
I have to say, I give you a lot of credit for being creative and getting around that rule. We're always on our feet. Thank you, Penny. The governance team includes all the members of the board of directors as well as the region directors, specialists, and consultants. To introduce the region directors is First Vice President Grace Marie Rosé. The chair asks that the region directors to stand and face the delegates as they are introduced and remain standing. Please hold your applause until all are introduced. Grace Marie, you will please introduce the region directors.
Central, Lori Fairbanks. Lori is unable to join us this evening. Central Hudson, Amani DeGame. Suffolk, Kathy Vento. Leatherstocking, Lori Fees. Genesee Valley, Lisa Christoffel. Mohawk Valley, Caressa Carlisle Beam, who unfortunately is unable to be with us this evening. Nassau, Pat Assertato. Niagara, Cindy Ames. Northeastern, Bev Cottrell. South Central, Corinne Franz. Southeastern, Barbara Knighton. Southwestern, Heather Petrie. Taconic, Stacy Lee. Westchester East Putnam, Antoinette Darden Cintron, who is unfortunately able to be with us this evening. And finally, Western, Patty Frazier. Please help me in thanking your region directors.
Thank you, Grace Marie. Please be seated. Vice President Kelly Stevenson will introduce our specialists.
Arts is Eric Zielinski, unable to join us this evening. Awards, Helen Hoffman. Data, Jean Kinney, unable to join us this evening. Diversity, Melena Den. Financial support, Joanne in Calcaterra, unable to join us this evening. Health, Ann Ehrlich. Literacy, Tamlin Martin. Mail engagement, Dan Baddick, unable to join us this evening. Marketing, Lori Fontana. Merchandise, Gal Glagora. Pick a reading partner, Stephanie Avedon. Publication, Nori Gardner-Baca in the back. Reflections, Sarah Henris. Rural, Janet Ahola, unable to join us this evening. Special Education, Joyce Catani. Urban Initiative Specialist, Lonnie Phillips. Please help me and thank your state specialist.
Thank you, Kelly. As president, I am assisted in the ongoing work of the association by experienced individuals who serve as consultants. It is my pleasure to introduce them to you tonight. Please stand while I call your name and remain standing. I will just mention that the majority of them are not here this evening, but I would still like to share the information with you because they are very important to us. Susan Burkow, historian. Maria DeWald, partnership support and member of the management team of the New York State Family Engagement Coalition. Maria is also a past New York State president. Maria Fletcher, advocacy support and member of the Technology Special Committee. Janet Meyerson, resource guide, content support. And Stephanie Fear, special meetings liaison. Please help me thank those consultants. We are also joined this evening by the following past New York State PTA presidents. Alice Willett, 1968 to 1971. Susan Littman, 2008 to 2010. Lana Ajamian, 2012 to 2014. At this time, I would like to take a moment of silence for two past state presidents that we lost this year. Joan Ball, who served as president from 1980 to 1983, and Sheila Cohen, who served as president from 1988 to 1990. Please take another moment for Jamie Beth Knapp, who served on our board of directors as family engagement coordinator and on the governance team as the environment specialist up until her recent passing. We will be, I'm really sorry. We will be presenting an award in her honor tomorrow evening at the banquet. Please note the 3 yellow roses in front of me. It's to honor each one of them for all that they have done for every child, one voice. I would now like to ask our extraordinary staff members who are here at this convention to stand as I introduce them. They are often our unsung heroes, but without them, we would not be able to provide you with the memorable experience you will share the following this weekend or all throughout this year. Executive Administrator Rick Longhurst. Office and Events Manager Claire Hart. Events Assistant Carol Raymond. Membership and Insurance Manager Dana Walsh. Not here this weekend, but an integral member of our staff is Amy Tweedy, Administrative Assistant, and Lynette Degnan, Administrative Assistant. Thank you, all of you, for everything you do. So I'd also like to take a moment to ask, how many first-timers do we have here, and can you all stand up? All right, Nathan. We are so glad you chose to be here this evening, and we know you're going to have a great time. Now on to business. To establish the voting power of the delegates at the 119th Convention, the first order of business is the report of the Credentials Committee. Neil Johanning, Treasurer, will give the report.
Good evening. I move the adoption of the Credentials Report for Session 1 as of 7:10 p.m. this evening. And this is inside the back cover of your program. I'm sorry. Voting delegates, 191. Non-voting delegates, 0. Guests, 11. Presenters, 3. Exhibitors, 33, for a total of 238 attendees from 14 regions.
This is a committee report and requires no second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the adoption of the Credentials Report signify by raising your voting cards high and say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Cards down. All those opposed to the adoption of the Credentials Report signify by raising your cards high and say no. Thank you. There is a majority in the affirmative. You have adopted the first Credentials Report, and a voting power of 191 delegates has been established. We may proceed with the business of the convention. Thank you, Neil. Okay. I would like to also confirm that means we have a quorum. We are good to go. Thank you to our parliamentarian. Judy Van Heren, Secretary and Chairman of the Rules Committee, will present the convention rules. Each delegate should have a program. The proposed rules can be found on pages 13 to 14 of your program. If there is no objection, we will dispense with the reading of the rules. Okay. Hearing no objections. That didn't sound like one to me.
Thank you.
She thanks you. Please take a minute to review the rules.
Madam President, I move the adoption of the convention rules as printed.
This is a committee report and does not require a second. Is there any discussion? A 2/3 vote is required for adoption of the rules. All those in favor signify by raising your voting card high and saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Cards down. All those opposed signify by raising your cards high and saying no. Okay. Thank you. There are 2/3 in the affirmative, and you have adopted the convention rules. Thank you, Judy. Thank you for bearing with me a second. Okay. Jackie Wilson, Convention Coordinator, will present the program. Jackie has done an extraordinary job coordinating this convention. It has been an interesting, challenging, and fun opportunity and an amazing partnership. There are always so many details that require attention, and along with an outstanding convention committee, she has worked tirelessly to make this convention a memorable experience for all of our delegates.
Thank you. Please take out your programs. We have some corrections. On page 6, under General Session 1, after entertainment, please insert Kenmore East High School Jazz Ensemble, directed by Phil Agoya, A.G., U.G., L.I.A. On page 7, General Session 2, after entertainment, please add Kenmore East
High School Woodwind Quintet, directed by Phil Agoya. On page 7, under Credentials Report, please insert Nominating Committee Report by Lori Zaman. On page 8, General Session 4, the Reflections Film Video compilation will be shown as you enter Session 4. Not at the time listed in the program. On page 9, under Parliamentary Assistance Table, please cross out Maria DeWald. On page 34, under First Timers, cross out Mary Beth Vandenberg and insert Sandy Tagliamonte, Tagliamonte. Under First Timers on page 34, I'm sorry, Leatherstocking Region, I'm sorry. Leatherstocking Region, correct, thank you. Cross out Mary Vandenberg and insert Sandy Tagliamonte, Tagliamonte. And on page 34, under Elections Committee, very bottom, please cross out Donna Amobersteg. Please cross out Shannon Stevenson. Please add Joan Wabnik, Wabnik, and Penny Hollister, Hollister. I move the adoption of the convention program as corrected, with the chair empowered to make such changes as necessary.
This is a committee report and requires no second. Is there any discussion or any further corrections? Are you ready to vote? All in favor of adopting the program as amended, signify by raising your voting cards high and saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Voting cards down. Those opposed signify by raising your voting cards high and saying no. Thank you. There is a majority in the affirmative, and the convention program is adopted as amended. Now that we have adopted the credentials, rules, and the program, we will proceed with the business of the convention. When you coordinate the workshops for convention, you try to provide interesting and varied topics to meet the needs of all our delegates. Workshop coordinator Kelly Stevenson has done a great job organizing some unique and different workshop offerings for this convention. Kelly, please come forward to give your report.
Thanks. So how many of you were able to get to workshops today? Raise your hand. Did you have great workshops? Great, I'm glad. So today I think we had 4 fabulous workshops. Tomorrow we have 8 super workshops, and on Sunday we have 8 spectacular workshops with some wonderful presenters. It's our hope that you're going to leave this convention informed and inspired. When you go home, you will get a workshop evaluation regarding the workshops you were in. Please take the time to give thoughtful responses to both positive comments and suggestions you have. Those will always be taken into consideration, and we use your suggestions to make it better for you. That's all I have. Thank you, and enjoy your workshops.
Thank you, Kelly.
Ooh, you okay? There's a hole there.
Okay. At this point, I am pleased to introduce Local Arrangements Coordinator, Western Region PTA Arts and Education Chair, Diane DeJoseph. Diane, please come forward to give your report.
Good evening. Friday night's entertainment, colors presented by Cambria Boy Scout Troop 8, chartered by the Cambria Volunteer Fire Department, joined by Assistant Scoutmaster Joe Boschnaglan, I apologize for that, on bagpipes, John Clemens on Scottish drum, and Eagle Scout Jacob Dawson on snare drum. Troop 8 boasts the highest percentage of Eagle Scouts in their council. National Anthem sung by Tiffany Melendez, who is currently a senior at Grand Island High School and a three-sport athlete in soccer, basketball, and lacrosse, and the Female Athlete of the Year 2 years in a row for 2013-2014. Friday evening musical performance by Kenmore East High School Jazz Combo under the direction of Mr. Phil Agulia, which just recently was the only regional jazz ensemble to participate in a youth jazz festival in Las Vegas. And they actually were supposed to have a different jazz ensemble, and as of this morning, he felt those students weren't ready, so he grabbed these kids. Just a little sidebar. So it's kind of cool. They pulled that together in a day. Saturday morning musical performance will be by Kenmore East High School Woodwind Quintet, also under the direction of Mr. Phil Agulia. Mr. Agulia was a 2015 quarterfinalist for the Music Education Award presented by the Recording Academy and the Grammy Foundation. He has gained national attention for his unique curriculum incorporating all of the National Arts Common Core standards. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. We will now proceed with the state financial report, and I will ask Neil Johanning, Treasurer, to return to the podium for this report.
Thank you. First slide, please. I just want to start off by talking about the audit. Yearly, we have our auditor, Bonadillo and Company, certified public accountants do an audit with us. Thank you to the staff who helped prepare this and our bookkeeper, and for the team of people that came from Bonadillo to look at our finances and our books. Once again, they again expressed an unqualified opinion on financial statements, which is the highest you can get. And it's been reviewed by the Budget and Finance Committee and the Board of Directors. Next slide. A couple things that they changed, or they made a point to it, and on the document that you were handed in, I want to make one minor change on it. So if you want to get that out, it would be the white document, not the annual report. First thing I do is on page 8, under number 7, the left-hand column for parents as reading partners, the $93,224 should be corrected as $43,149. So if you make that change, please. That error was not caught before we printed these up. And we caught it last Friday, I believe. And so we just want to make a quick change in your paperwork.
Could you repeat that, Neil?
On page 8, at the top of the page, under number 7, temporarily restricted net assets. The third line, parents as reading partners, where it says 93,224. Please correct that to say 43,149. That number has to do with money that's restricted to particular programs, like we have our Twin Projects program that are listed above, the Jenkins and the Teacher Fellowship, the money that we collect from donations through our awards. That money is restricted for those programs. Same with the PARP. When the PARP program was started years ago, there was money that was put in that program that it has to be used for that program. We had done a lot of research on that number last year. There was a slight change in the team of the auditors, so what we had done last year was not communicated forward with them. Again, we did discuss this. They are correcting it in the version that I have. We will be reposting and republishing a version of this at this time, but I just want to make sure on that change. They also made a couple of recommendations in the way we do things. We had purchased some equipment, some lighting fixtures for the outside in the parking lot. We had just paid the bill for that and entered it as an expense on our budget. They're recommending capitalizing that and spreading that expense in our finances over a period of time to be determined based on the expected life. So we're making a couple changes to our procedures relating to that. They had some recommendations with regard to IT disaster recovery. We have some computer systems at the state office that are in a room that are not, it's not quite called a computer room. They're making us aware of that. And we want to work toward doing something there. There's a technology committee that was mentioned earlier that will take that into account as we move forward to possibly move some of that into a different location in the building, change the configuration, or move it off-site to a different computer center. Lastly, we're also going to realign some of the numbers in some of these reports they do. We have made changes to our programs. We've added different programs over the last couple of years, and some of the items that were listed in the report had to be regrouped because the numbers in our books didn't quite match the way they were lining them up, so we're going to work with them to realign. Basically, we've changed stuff and we haven't caught up with them yet, or they haven't caught up with us. So we'll be working with them over the next couple of weeks so that it'll be easier for whoever's given this report next year to actually create the report. Next slide, please. And again, next, so we're just going to do a quick overview of what happened over the past year that ended last June 30th. We had a income just under what was expected, and expense matched that. The income, we did pull quite a few funds from savings to balance our budget. Out there was about $70,000 that we had to pull from savings. That pull from savings was balanced later on by gains in our investments. So basically, overall, if you take the amount of money we had in the bank and all our funds and across all the programs last year and this year, it's slightly larger, but I just wanted to point out that we did have to take some money out of reserves for the to balance the operating budget. And we're going to do something, and right now we plan to do something similar for next year. We are working on increasing some of the programs and different systems to be able to possibly increase our revenue or reduce expenses.
Okay. Excuse me, at Mic 3, we have a request for information.
Yes, June and Ella, Valley Stream Scepter Locals 10, I think it's 271. I have a question on page 8. When you change the total to 43,149, the total for that column should also be changed to 516,285. Am I correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
I did mention it. Thank you very much for that. I just didn't catch that in my notes.
Thank you.
That's what my spreadsheet usually does for me. I don't have to go change that line. So, great catch. Thank you very much. Next slide, please. This slide is a breakdown of the major areas of our budget: the advocacy, field support, communications, the leadership program, including this event, the structure. We have board meetings and executive committee meetings throughout the year, supporting, and the officers supporting that, and then the office operations budget, staff, benefits, computer systems, insurance on the building, maintenance on the building, things like that are in there. And then I ran out of room, so I put the store on the same line there, and that's what our budget does too. Some items were slightly above, some were a little bit below. Our staff salary line was a little bit lower because Lynn, as you saw, had a baby this year, and she wasn't in the office for 3 or 4 months, so our staff costs were down a little bit. Other items went up and down. Basically, like every year, we adjust items. We had some savings here, some there. We had a lot of work done in the resource development area last year that we went a little bit over budget, but we were under what we had expected to spend this year. So it's going to come out pretty close to a wash. Next year, our budget, we've looked at it. We've trimmed some based on plans, input from the board, the programs areas. We've added some new things, added some other things. And this is the budget we have for next year. Now, again, this is as of last week when we put these numbers together, and as of the last year, the budget reflected here is the budget that was passed in July. It has been amended with board action this morning to increase a couple of program lines for the reflections area and the PARP area. So those numbers will be republished. I'm just letting you know that that's as of June 30th, and the budget that was adopted at summer leadership this year. Next slide, please. A quick breakdown on the twin projects. This is the Jenkins scholarships and the teacher fellowships. These are doing well. These are popular. The income is up. The awards are up. We're going to restructure the teacher fellowship award this year. We saw some less than expected applications because the amount was only $1,500, and a graduate school course is a little bit more than that. So what we decided to do is reduce the number of scholarships and double the scholarship amount to $3,000. So the dollar amount stays the same, but the number of scholarships will be up. And I believe we've awarded some of those scholarships already this year. Next slide, please. PART program, has been, as I said last year, has been kind of dormant. So again, the budget as of last July was basically, investment income and fees associated with that type of thing. So, but I'm happy to announce, and I believe they'll probably talk about later, the PARP conference will be back next spring. And that one of the actions the board did yesterday was to amend the PARP budget to allow us to run that program next year. Thank you. Next slide. Insurance program. This is the unit insurance program. This is not the unit. This is not the benefits insurance. This is not the building insurance. This is the unit. This is the unit the insurance that the state provides its units. Our income is the dues that the units pay. The expenses are a combination of our premiums that we pay to our Rosen-Kiernan vendor. Actually, Philadelphia Insurance. Rosen-Kiernan is the agent. Excuse me. As well as a portion of the state operations, because we have a cost to run that program. We send out the bills, we keep track of the data, we have postage costs, we have staff time to manage this. So there's a formula that has been tweaked and is approved and reviewed every year by the auditors to say we're spending, a piece, this much of the office operation gets applied to our cost of this program. Over the last couple of years, we have been basically making a little bit, making a little bit less, making a little bit less, making a little bit less. We're actually budgeted to lose about $6,000 this year. And the board yesterday adopted a program to restructure the insurance program to see slight increases in rates for most units over the next 3 years. So we're going to have a schedule of increases based on certain assumptions of insurance rate guesses, and as we go forward, if the rates don't go up as much there, maybe we'll decide not to raise them again. There will be one of the significant changes. I know there are special ed type questions that came up earlier. The SEPTAs will go from $235 to $100 because a lot of the insurance, they're basically double insuring the buildings in their districts. So we are restructuring that program with regard to the SEPTAs and also with the multiple building units where there's three buildings but only one unit. Those buildings were basically paying 3 times the total cost of insurance, whereas opposed the new program will say one insurance for the unit and then a fee for every building after that. So that formula will be calculated. So watch for the bills in May, effective next year. So there'll be not this year we're in now, but the bill that will come in May for next fall, the one that'll be due at the end of this year, but for next year's insurance. And I think that's it on my slides.
Are there any questions? Financial report is for informational purposes and will be filed for audit. Okay, you had something else.
Right, well, in the script, there's a motion.
Okay. Why don't you read the motion?
Right. I move the adoption of the audit report as corrected.
Is there discussion? All those in favor of approving the auditor's report signify by raising your voting cards high and saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Cards down. All those opposed signify by raising your voting cards high and saying no. Thank you. There is a majority in the affirmative, and the audit report has been adopted. Thank you. Thank you, Neil.
And lastly, in closing, I'd really like to thank the insurance company that's working with us and on all the units and regions to help answer all the questions from our units, and of course the audit team that did a lot of work at the state office and helped us pull these reports together. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Parliamentarian Carol Shalansky will now provide the delegates with a parliamentary briefing. Carol is a registered parliamentarian.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam President. Many of you have been to the past few conventions, and Mark and I, my silent partner here, have had the pleasure of getting to know you and working with you. Those of you who have been here before know the philosophy that we and your president have when it comes to parliamentary procedure. Parliamentary procedure is a tool designed to help us complete a great deal of work fairly and efficiently in a limited amount of time. It is not a weapon to be feared. And more importantly, it is not an end in itself. Parliamentary procedure is a tool we use to foster democratic decision-making, nothing more. You've come here this week to conduct the business of the New York State PTA. You have come here because you care about children. You've come here so your opinions can be heard and so you can affect the future of this great organization. The aim of everyone up here on the podium is to empower you to do just that. If you are not well versed in parliamentary procedure, please do not be intimidated by what you see. Just think of this as a supersized unit meeting. If you want to do something, but you're not sure how, simply ask. When the convention is not in session, just come to me and ask your question. While the convention is in session, go to the parliamentary table, which is at the back of the room, and speak with the highly knowledgeable past president who will be manning that table. She is sitting there to help you. Or you may make a parliamentary inquiry from microphone number 3. If you do not ask, if you do not understand what to do or what is going on, then not only are you giving up your own rights, but you are also forfeiting the rights of the people back home who sent you to this convention as their delegate. You have come to Niagara Falls to learn and to participate. The vote of every delegate counts. There are 86 different motions. Where did I put it? There we go. Listed in the current edition of Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, 11th edition. Your parliamentary authority. Don't worry. This is not a National Association of Parliamentarians meeting, and we are not going to use them all. Now, look on page 20 of your program. You will find a table listing frequently used motions. There is one motion I want to discuss, a request for information. It used to be called a point of information. It is a very powerful motion. It gets you to microphone 3, and it stops the clock. This motion is designed to get information, not give information. Please, when you are recognized for a request for information, ask a succinct, I could say that before, question. Do not engage in debate, or you will be asked by your presiding officer to please be seated. And she'll be very polite, but very insistent. On pages 18 and 19, you will find more information on parliamentary procedure. On page 21, you will find the microphone rules. Microphone 1 is used to speak in favor of a motion or to make an amendment. if you happen to be seated on that side of the room. Microphone 2 is to be used to speak against a motion or to make an amendment if you happen to be seated on this side of the room. Microphone 3 is reserved for privileged and incidental motions only. In the convention rules you just adopted, as listed on page 13, there are time limits. No delegate shall speak for more than 2 minutes. No motion may be debated for more than 10 minutes. No new resolution may be on the floor for more than 30 minutes. No update can be on the floor more than 15 minutes, and no retention shall be on the floor for more than 10 minutes. I am available to talk to delegates throughout the convention. Just tell me what you want to do, and I'll be happy to tell you how to do it, within the confines of parliamentary procedure. When it comes to auto mechanics, it's over my head. A lot of things are over my head. It is very, very important that each and every delegate feel that he or she has had a fair opportunity to participate in the business of this convention, regardless of his or her experience or parliamentary knowledge. You have gathered here in beautiful Niagara Falls to work together to further the objects of PTA. You may not always agree with every delegate who is here, but throughout this annual convention, you will work together for a common goal: children. I thank you for this opportunity to once again serve your organization. Have a great convention.
Thank you, Carol. And now the New York State PTA Bylaws Coordinator, George Kimball, will present the proposed bylaws. Amendments located on pages 15 and 16 of your program book for adoption. A 2/3 vote is needed to amend the bylaws. George?
I'd first like to say the amendment to Article 8, Section 6 has been withdrawn. On behalf of the New York State Bylaws Committee, I move the adoption of amendments to Article 8, Officers, Elections, and Vacancies, Section 2, Article 11, Board of Directors, new proposed Section 7, and Article 13, Committees, Coordinators, Youth Member Specialists, new proposed Section 3.
This is a committee report and requires no second. We will be voting on them all together or in parliamentary terms by consent agenda or in block, unless there is a request for any item to be removed from the block to be discussed and voted on separately, which is the right of any voting delegate. Bylaws Coordinator George Kimball will read each amendment and the rationale just as he would if we were doing separate motions. After each is read, I will ask if any delegate wishes it to be removed from the block for separate discussion and vote. This request does not require a motion, a second, or a vote. A single request is all that is needed. We will go through all the amendments, noting any amendment requested to be pulled for individual action. We will then vote on those remaining in the consent agenda first, then address those pulled one at a time. George?
Article 8, Officers, Elections, and Vacancies, Section 2. The officers of the New York State PTA shall be a president, a first vice president, and 3 vice presidents, a secretary, and a treasurer. Proviso. I'm sorry.
Can you clarify, are you reading the proposed or are you reading the current bylaws section?
Can you guys hold on one moment, please? Just checking the page, guys, so I can see what you're looking at there. Okay. Page 15 and 16. Thank you. Okay, let's take a look here. Okay. So what he is, thank you, Kathy. What he is reading is not current. He's reading what we are proposing. That is the difference between the 4 and the 3. Okay? Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you for that clarification. George, why don't you continue?
Okay. Proviso, the number of vice presidents shall be reduced from 4 to 3 immediately prior to the election at the 2016 convention. Such officers shall, for the purpose of election and tenure, be divided into 2 groups. The officers elected in odd years shall be a treasurer and 2 vice presidents. The officers elected in even years shall be a president, a vice president, 1 vice president, and a secretary. Rationale. The number of vice presidents is being reduced to create an executive committee of an odd number of members. This will be done through attrition in 2016. The number of vice presidents elected in odd and even years need to be altered to conform with the proviso above, dealing with the transition from 4 to 3 vice presidents.
Would anyone like Article 8, Officers, Elections, and Vacancies, Section 2, pulled for discussion or separate consideration? Okay. Thank you. George? Article 11?
Article 11, Board of Directors. Add new Section 7. Members of the Board of Directors may participate in and act at any meeting of the board by conference call, teleconference, or other electronic media where all participating in the meeting can communicate with each other at the same time as permitted by applicable law. Participation in such meetings shall constitute attendance and presence in person at the meeting. Rationale, this enables board members to fully participate in all board meetings if they cannot be present in person and recognizes the changing needs of future leaders.
Would anyone like Article 11, Board of Directors, Section 7, pulled for discussion or separate consideration? Okay. George?
Article 13, Committees, Coordinators, Youth Member, Specialists. Add, new, and renumber the rest. Section 3, committee members may participate in and act at any meeting of any committee of which they are a member by conference call, teleconference, or other electronic media, where all participating in the meeting can communicate with each other at the same time as permitted by applicable law. Participation in such meetings shall constitute attendance and presence in person at the meeting. Rationale, this enables all committee members to fully participate in their respective committee meetings if they cannot be present in person and recognizes the changing needs of future leaders.
Would anyone like Article 13, Committees, Coordinators, Youth Member Specialists, add new and renumber the rest, Section 3, pulled for discussion or separate consideration? No bylaws amendments were requested to be pulled from the block. All those in favor of amending the bylaws as presented, please raise your voting cards and say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please raise voting cards and say no. Okay. We have amended the bylaws. Thank you. Thank you, George. Lori Zaman, Chairman of the Nominating Committee, will now present the Nominating Committee report.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to recognize and thank my fellow nominating committee members, Sean Hannum, Grace Marie Rose, Judy Van Haren, and Jackie Wilson. along with alternates Donna Imobersteg and Shannon Stevenson. Madam President, the 2015 Nominating Committee submits the following slate of nominees to be presented to the delegates at the 2015 convention of the New York State Congress of Parents and Teachers Incorporated. Vice President Jane Harsha. Vice President Judy Van Haren. Treasurer Neil Johanning.
The chair requests that the nominees stand and face the assembly as their names are called. Vice President Jane Harsha. Vice President Judy Van Haren. Treasurer Neil Johanning. Thank you, nominees. Please be seated. You have heard the report of the nominating committee. In accordance with Article 8, Section 12, additional nominations may be made from the floor only if a candidate submitted their qualifications 14 business days before opening of convention. No one has submitted their qualifications, therefore we will proceed with the elections. In accordance with our bylaws, when there is but one candidate for an office, the ballot may be dispensed with. All those in favor, if the three candidates could stand up, please. Okay. All those in favor of Jane Harsha for the position of Vice President, raise your voting card and say aye. Aye. Opposed, raise your voting card and say no. Okay. You have elected Jane Harsha as Vice President. All those in favor of Judy Van Haren for the position of Vice President, raise your voting card and say aye. Aye. Opposed, raise your voting card and say no. You have elected Judy Van Haren as Vice President. All those in favor of Neil Johanning for the position of Treasurer, raise your voting card and say aye. Aye. Opposed, raise your voting card and say no. You have elected Neil Johanning as Treasurer. Members of the New York State PTA, the chair presents your newly elected officers for your congratulations. Vice President Jane Harsha, Vice President Judy Van Haren, Treasurer Neil Johanning. Thank you. Sit down. I think you need to hold on a moment. Okay. The election of officers had left a vacancy in the position of Secretary held by newly elected Vice President Judy Van Haren. The term of that position is 2014 to 2016. There is one remaining year. In accordance with our bylaws, Article 8, Section 10I, if a vacancy in office has been created by the convention, the nominating committee shall be charged with submitting to the convention the name of a candidate for the office to be filled. The election by the convention shall be by ballot from among the persons nominated by the nominating committee or from the floor. At this time, the chair charges the nominating committee to meet this evening at the close of session to select a nominee to be presented to the delegates at the start of session 2 tomorrow morning. In the morning, per our bylaws, as stated in the aforementioned article, the chair will also entertain nominations from the floor, as well as presented by the nominating committee. Lori, please convene your committee this evening. Please note that according to our bylaws, Article 8, Section 6, to be eligible for office in the New York State PTA, a person shall have served at least 2 years on the Board of Directors of New York State PTA. Lori, thank you. It is 9:30, but I think if we would like, we're going to do basic policy, and then we will call it a night. What do you guys think? Does that work for you? Okay. The chair would like to call your attention to New York State PTA basic policy, which can be found on pages 21 to 22 of the convention program. The chair now asks Resolution Coordinator Dana Platon to join me at the podium to present the proposed resolutions. Oh, not resolutions, basic policy. Okay. Would you prefer to do this in the morning, Dana?
Yes, actually, I will.
Okay, you guys good with that? We're very flexible. So Dana, in the morning?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Well, that was easy enough. Thank you. Thank you for being understanding. At this time, I would like to refer the delegates to your sponsor and exhibitor directory received with your registration materials. It is a listing of this year's convention sponsors and exhibitors. On behalf of the New York State PTA, I wish to thank all of our sponsors and exhibitors, most especially tonight, our elite sponsors, and I think they're around here somewhere, Life Touch School Portraits, the official photographer of National PTA and New York State PTA. They have been very generous as a sponsor, and you will note several events that they have sponsored throughout the convention. New York State PTA mobile app sponsor by Blackboard, and if you haven't downloaded it yet, it's a great tool for the convention. Please do. Premier sponsor, Cheddar Up. Premier sponsor, OSC World. Cyber Center and CMI Communications. We hope you have an opportunity to utilize an expanded cyber center that now includes phone chargers. If you are an Empire State PTS member and PTSA member and have signed up for the annual meeting, this breakfast will be held tomorrow morning in the Cataract Room. Those who registered for this breakfast, please note that it will begin at 7:30 a.m. You will need a ticket to attend, so please make sure you have that with you. For all other convention attendees, breakfast will be served in the Entertainment Exhibit Center from 7 through 8:30 a.m. You will also need tickets, so please make sure you bring them. If anyone has concerns, please see Claire Hart, and please do make every effort to be on time for the start of General Session 2 at 9 a.m. back here in the Conference Center. Please visit the PTA store if you haven't already, and even if you have, as well as our PTA share table from 8:30 to 3 p.m. Saturday, no Sunday hours. The Cyber Center, the Reflections Art Roadshow exhibit, and sponsor commercial and non-for-profit exhibits. Also at the Cyber Center, something a little different this year. One of those PCs is dedicated to making available a preview of an upcoming movie around our education system called Beyond Measure. Please feel free to stop by to view the clip and for more information about the movie. There is much for you to see and do, and much to take home with you. I know you will want to bring information back to share with your units, councils, and regions. Is there other information from the Office of Event Manager and Convention Coordinator or other members of the Convention Committee to come before the delegates?
Thank you, Bonnie. In our lost and found, we have a pair of Vogue sunglasses, so if you are missing them, please see me after session. Tomorrow morning's session will begin with the region slideshow that we put together. So those were culled from pictures that you sent to us of events in your region. So when you come in, you'll be seeing that. Thanks to Nori putting that together. Again, I will reiterate about the meal tickets. Please remember to have them with you. And a reminder again, during tomorrow's session when we begin the resolutions discussion, we will have Susan at the parliamentary assistance table in the back. Should you have any questions, Carol is available as well. So please feel free to ask them any and all questions to make it easier for you to understand the business. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. There will be no need for a candidates forum. However, there will be a resolutions briefing and caucus in the Hennepin room immediately following this session. If there is no objection, we are adjourned until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Thank you.